this week is different.
Abby decides to show up for work. That's a good start for this week. So there's the good that Abby's present. Smile!
Stay, come on.
Baby, let's roll the dice.
Gotta get higher in the air.
Let's roll the dice.
I will explain the gossip. Never miss this video. Please subscribe to the channel. JoJo Siwa may have entered the ALDC with a bow as big as her personality, but nothing could prepare her for Abby Lee Miller's infamous rap. In Season 5, one of the most iconic showdowns unfolded, Abby kicking JoJo out of the group dance. The glitter fell off the bow real fast. This wasn't just about choreography. This was a battle of control, chaos, and clashing egos. For JoJo, it was one of her biggest humiliations. For Abby, it was just another day of teaching tough love her way. Let's rewind to the episode where it all went down and break down exactly how Abby decided JoJo was finished. It started with a classic ALDC setup, high-stakes competition week, a brand new routine, and a ticking clock. The group dance was meant to be edgy and stylistic, something different from their usual lyrical numbers. Abby wanted clean lines, fierce commitment, and zero distractions. Enter JoJo. The moment she stepped onto the floor with her high ponytail, rhinestoned outfit, and JoJo attitude, Abby's eyes twitched. She'd said it before, JoJo had potential, but her over-the-top personality had to be reeled in, not let loose. And this dance wasn't about being cute or quirky, it was about cohesion. Spoiler alert, JoJo wasn't blending in. She was standing out, and not in the way Abby wanted. JoJo came to Dance Moms via Abby's ultimate dance competition, and from day one, she made it clear, she had a brand. Sparkles, bows, attitude, and loud everything. Abby didn't mind a confident dancer, but she hated when someone questioned her authority. Throughout rehearsals, JoJo struggled to hit the group's formations. Her movements were exaggerated. Her energy was, well, very JoJo. And Abby? She was watching her like a hawk. The other girls, Maddie, Kendall, Nia, Kalani, were doing what they always did. Listening, adjusting, and trying not to end up in Abby's line of fire. JoJo, she talked back. Not rudely, but she had opinions. She questioned blocking, asked for clarity, and worst of all, tried to explain herself when Abby snapped. That was her first mistake. By day 2 of rehearsals, the tension was unbearable. Abby halted practice mid-count and walked directly over to JoJo. "Why are you always doing your own thing?" she barked. JoJo, slightly startled but holding her ground, replied, "I thought I was doing what you said." Wrong answer. Abby unleashed a monologue about professionalism, about listening, about how she didn't care what JoJo thought she was doing, only what Abby saw. And what she saw was a dancer not fitting in with the rest of the team. She is not a team player, Abby spat to the moms. She's too focused on being JoJo, not being a part of the ALDC. Cue Melissa's eyebrows raising, Kira trying not to laugh, and Jessalyn, JoJo's mom, stepping in. Are you seriously blaming her for standing out? That's what you loved about her in the first place. Jessalyn argued. Abby wasn't hearing it. She clapped her hands and shouted, "She's done. She is finished. JoJo, you're out of the number." Silence. Then chaos. Back in the viewing room, the moms had mixed feelings. Kira, Kalani's mom, honestly, JoJo was messing up the formations. Holly, Nia's mom, but Abby's delivery was so unprofessional. Again. Melissa, Maddie, and Mackenzie's mom, JoJo's different. That's not a bad thing. But Jessalyn? Oh, she was fuming. She stormed down to the studio to confront Abby directly. "You can't kick my kid out just because you don't like her personality," she snapped. "Yes, I can. This is MY Company," Abby retorted. And with that, JoJo was benched. JoJo held it together until they left the studio. Once in the hallway, the tears came. "I just wanted to be good," she sniffled. "I'm trying so hard, but I feel like no matter what I do, she's mad." Jessalyn comforted her, but the damage was done. JoJo had been publicly rejected by Abby, in front of the team, the cameras, and the fans. Meanwhile, Abby gathered the remaining dancers. "I can't have distractions on stage," she said. This is a team. It's not the JoJo show. Irony? By trying to erase JoJo, Abby ended up making everyone talk about her even more. The episode aired, and fans were furious. Twitter exploded with #JusticeForJojo. Viewers called Abby a bully, accused her of stifling individuality, and praised JoJo for handling the situation with class. Clips of Abby screaming "she is finished" went viral. But so did JoJo's quiet reaction, her honesty, her emotion, and her refusal to completely crumble. Some fans even speculated that this moment was the beginning of JoJo's eventual breakout. Why? Because this was when people started seeing her not just as a quirky dancer, but as a fighter. Behind the scenes, some say Abby realized she went too far. Others claim she wanted to push JoJo to see if she could take the heat. In later interviews, Abby said JoJo had a lot to learn, but was a star in the making. Translation: Abby may have yelled "she's finished," but deep down, she knew JoJo was far from done. JoJo returned the following week, back in rehearsals and back in the group dance, but something had shifted. She wasn't trying to impress Abby as much anymore. She danced for herself, and the fans noticed. Looking back, this moment marked a turning point. JoJo didn't cave. She didn't let Abby break her spirit. If anything, she used the humiliation as fuel. Within a year, JoJo had merchandise, a YouTube channel, and millions of young fans who loved her unapologetic self-expression. She went from being the girl Abby kicked out to the girl who outgrew the ALDC entirely. Some say Abby underestimated her. Others say she made her. Either way, JoJo turned "you're finished" into a launching pad. And if you ask JoJo now, she'll probably say, "That moment made me who I am." In the chaotic universe of dance moms, Abby's outbursts are legendary. But few moments hit as hard as her kicking JoJo out of a number. Not for lack of skill, but for being too much. Too loud. Too herself. But that's exactly what made JoJo a superstar. She is finished. No. She was just getting started. After Abby Lee Miller declared JoJo finished, the silence in the studio was deafening, but the drama was just beginning. JoJo may have been cut from the group number, but her spirit was unbroken. In fact, this was when she quietly started plotting her comeback. Back at home, JoJo and Jesselyn had a real heart-to-heart. No sparkles, no sass, just raw emotion. JoJo admitted she felt embarrassed, like the odd one out. But Jesselyn, ever the stage mom turned hype coach, reminded her, "You weren't made to blend in. You were made to shine." That message hit hard. JoJo could either fade into the background like Abby wanted, or she could turn this moment into her origin story. And we all know which option she chose. While JoJo was at home, licking her wounds, Abby was back in rehearsal mode with the rest of the team. The group dance carried on without JoJo, but it wasn't quite the same. Abby knew it too. She complained about the energy. She criticized Maddie's emotion. She told Kalani her lines weren't clean enough. Nothing was good enough. Why? Because deep down, JoJo's absence had shifted the vibe. For better or worse, JoJo brought electricity. She may have been unpredictable, but she was never boring. The moms noticed the difference. Even Holly, who had her own issues with Jesselyn, admitted, "It's quieter, maybe too quiet." Never underestimate a mom in full defend my child mode. Jesselyn wasn't just sitting around. She started gathering receipts, rehearsal footage, judge feedback, JoJo's prior wins. She wanted proof that JoJo was not the weak link Abby was painting her as. She confronted Abby at the studio the next day, with the cameras rolling. "I have judges who say JoJo was the standout," she said, holding up her phone. "And yet you're saying she's not team material?" Abby didn't flinch. Because she's not. Her mouth is bigger than her performance. Oof. The entire viewing room gasped. Jesselyn fired back. "At least she has a personality. That's more than I can say for some of these robots you're coaching." Abby responded with a smirk and a slow clap. "Enjoy your YouTube career." Little did she know that shade would age like milk. As the episode unfolded, one thing became clear. The team wasn't as united behind Abby as she assumed. Nia, for example, expressed real sympathy for JoJo. "She works hard. She just expresses herself differently," she told her mom. Kendall, meanwhile, confessed that she was kind of scared JoJo might come back stronger than ever and take the spotlight. That fear was very real. JoJo was becoming a movement. Even Maddie, Abby's golden child, seemed uncomfortable. "I don't think JoJo meant to mess up the dance," she said carefully. "I think she just dances big." That subtle support? It spoke volumes. The team was shifting, and Abby knew it. Fast forward to the next week. Abby brought the team back for another group number, and guess who walked through the door with her hair in a high ponytail and a bow that screamed, "Try to ignore me again." Yep. JoJo Siwa. Abby raised an eyebrow. "Did you come to observe, or are you ready to follow directions this time?" JoJo took a breath. "I'm ready to work." And she did. She nailed the combo. She adjusted her energy. She asked fewer questions. For once, Abby had nothing to yell about. It was clear JoJo had learned something from being kicked out, but more importantly, she had refused to be broken. Even Abby had to admit it. "That was better," she said begrudgingly. "Maybe she's not finished after all." The next competition was high stakes. Abby had one goal, first place. Anything less would be a failure, especially now that JoJo was back in the number. If they lost, Abby could easily blame her. If they won, she'd claim it was despite JoJo. The routine went off without a hitch. Sharp lines, synchronicity, and attitude. JoJo blended in when needed, and stood out just enough when the choreography called for it. Backstage, Abby said nothing. But everyone knew she was watching closely. Awards time. ALDC took first. The moms erupted. The girls hugged. JoJo let out the biggest exhale of her life. Abby clapped slowly. "Congratulations. You proved me wrong." It wasn't much. But coming from Abby Lee Miller, it was basically a standing ovation. Once again, the fans noticed. Clips of JoJo's redemption arc trended on Twitter and Instagram. Fans called it her Phoenix moment. One meme said, "She was finished? Then how come she just AT everyone up?" Fan edits flooded TikTok. Hashtags like hashtag JoJo comeback and hashtag unbothered queen trended for days. And this time, even casual viewers were noticing something bigger. JoJo didn't need Abby to be a star. Abby had built the ALDC empire by controlling her dancers, emotionally, creatively, and professionally. But JoJo was proving harder to control than anyone she'd ever coached. Why? Because JoJo didn't need Abby's approval to feel validated. She had fans. She had charisma. She had a look. And most dangerously, she had ambition that went beyond the competition stage. This realization made Abby push harder, giving JoJo tougher corrections, cutting her from select numbers, and pitting her against dancers like Kendall and Kalani. But none of it worked. JoJo just kept dancing and smiling. That smile? It drove Abby nuts. Producers of Dance Moms saw the writing on the wall. JoJo was ratings gold. Every time she was on screen, arguing with Abby, dazzling in rehearsals, or just being her loud self, the numbers spiked. They started giving JoJo more screen time, more interviews, and eventually solo confessionals. That move was huge. It meant she was no longer just a supporting character. She was becoming a star in her own right. And Abby? She hated it. "She thinks she's too big for this team," Abby muttered in one episode. "She's going to crash and burn." Plot twist, she didn't. Years later, fans still talk about the moment Abby screamed, "She is finished," at JoJo. Why? Because it represents everything Dance Moms is about: talent versus authority, individuality versus control, and the cost of standing out in a world obsessed with conformity. But JoJo didn't just survive that moment. She used it. She went on to launch an empire: music, merch, books, concerts, reality shows, and millions of loyal fans. Abby may have kicked her out of one dance, but JoJo took that rejection and turned it into rocket fuel. When Abby kicked JoJo out of the group number and declared her finished, JoJo wasn't the only one who felt the sting. Jessalyn Siwa, never one to back down, immediately went into full-blown mom-on-a-mission mode. Unlike the other moms, who sometimes tiptoed around Abby to protect their kids' spots, Jessalyn had zero interest in playing nice. "You want to cut my kid out of a number because she sparkles too much? Try again." This wasn't just a conflict over dance. This was a clash of two unstoppable forces, Abby's iron fist control versus Jessalyn's unshakable belief in her daughter. And when those two collided, the studio walls practically shook. After the infamous "she is finished" moment, Jessalyn didn't just go after Abby. She started side-eyeing the other moms too. In the viewing room, she asked a loaded question. "So none of you are going to say anything? You're all just okay with Abby humiliating a 10-year-old? Kira, Kalani's mom, rolled her eyes. Jill, Kendall's mom, tried to deflect. Melissa, Maddie, and Mackenzie's mom nervously sipped her water. And Holly? She nodded. "It's wrong," she said quietly. "But standing up to Abby usually means getting your kid benched." That didn't sit right with Jessalyn. She wasn't about to play the silent game. Unlike some of the others, she didn't fear Abby, and Abby knew it. Jessalyn confronted Abby in the middle of rehearsal. No filter. No warning. You don't get to destroy a kid's self-esteem because she's not like Maddie. That hit a nerve. Abby's voice turned icy. "Don't you dare bring Maddie into this. Jojo can't follow direction. Period." Jessalyn clapped back. "Because you give directions in the form of screaming and insults." The dancers froze. Jojo looked mortified. "And Abby?" She exploded. "This is MY Studio. If you don't like how I run it, there's the door." Jessalyn didn't flinch. "Maybe we'll walk right through it. With fans who actually want to see Jojo dance." Boom. That line echoed across the Dance Moms fandom like a firework. To understand the Jessalyn versus Abby showdown, you have to go back to Abby's ultimate dance competition, AUDC. Jojo was a standout contestant, but also one of Abby's most criticized. Jessalyn, even back then, clashed with Abby on everything from music choices to Jojo's image. Abby thought Jojo was too much. Jessalyn thought Abby was too small-minded. Even when Jojo didn't win AUDC, fans remembered her. She sparkled, literally and figuratively, and Jessalyn always made sure her daughter had a platform. Coming into Dance Moms, their feud was already simmering. The finish moment? That was just the explosion. The Abby versus Jessalyn feud forced the other moms into uncomfortable territory. Holly leaned toward Jessalyn's side, not because she agreed with her delivery, but because she understood her frustration. We've all been there, watching our daughters get torn down for who they are. Jill, meanwhile, took Abby's side. Jojo's personality can be a lot. If she wants to be on the team, she needs to adjust. Kira was more cutthroat. Not every kid is meant for ALDC. That's just the truth. The moms were split. But the fans? Online polls showed overwhelming support for Jessalyn and Jojo. People admired a mom who wasn't afraid to go toe-to-toe with Abby. Jessalyn wasn't perfect. Some viewers thought she was too much herself, loud, combative, always ready for a fight. But the deeper issue was that Abby couldn't handle a mom who mirrored her own intensity. So when they argued, it wasn't just about Jojo's dancing. It was a power struggle between two women who refused to back down. In any other universe, they might have been allies. But in the ALDC, they were rivals. Amid all the fighting, Jojo was stuck in the middle, trying to impress Abby, stay friends with the girls, and support her mom, all while trying not to fall apart. She confessed in one heartbreaking interview. It's hard when the person teaching you hates how you are. But she never quit. Not once. She kept showing up to rehearsals, kept practicing at home, kept dancing with that signature Jojo flair. And every time Abby tried to dim her light, Jessalyn reminded her. Shine brighter. That kind of encouragement. That's what helped Jojo withstand the storm. Let's be honest. Jessalyn versus Abby was giving Kelly versus Abby season 4 levels of chaos. But with less hair-pulling and more media-savvy mom battles. Where Kelly snapped and left, Jessalyn strategized. She began lining up brand deals for Jojo. Merch. YouTube content. Appearances. She saw what Abby couldn't. Jojo was a walking brand, not just a dancer. You don't want her in the group dance? Cool. She'll have her own tour. Jessalyn wasn't trying to get in with the ALDC. She was building something outside of it. And that's what scared Abby most. Once Jessalyn started becoming bigger than the show, Abby doubled down. She tried to ice Jojo out of solos. gave her the worst costumes, called her obnoxious and uncoachable in front of the team. But JoJo just kept gaining fans. Even the producers noticed. JoJo's Instagram was exploding. Her clips were outperforming the other girls online. Fan letters poured in. The more Abby tried to bury her, the more JoJo rose. Eventually, Abby realized something brutal. She couldn't control JoJo or Jessalyn. And for Abby, that was unforgivable. Behind the scenes, Jessalyn was already planning their exit. Not a dramatic blow-up, a calculated move. She knew JoJo's time at ALDC had an expiration date. The question was, how would they leave on their terms? So she started pulling JoJo out of numbers selectively, prioritizing brand deals over competitions. Slowly, JoJo became less of an ALDC member and more of a standalone star. Abby could feel her slipping away, and that only made her more bitter. In one chilling confessional, she said, "Some kids leave here and disappear. Let's see how far bows and glitter get her." Answer? Pretty far. Jessalyn Siwa will go down in Dance Mom's history as the only mom who didn't bow to Abby, not even for a second. She came in loud. She left louder. And in between, she protected her daughter at all costs. Abby may have built stars, but Jessalyn built an empire. And the most iconic part? The very thing Abby hated about JoJo, the attitude, the look, the voice, the individuality, became the exact thing that made her unstoppable. She is finished. After surviving being kicked out of the group dance and enduring the wrath of Abby Lee Miller, JoJo could have coasted by, stayed out of trouble, and avoided the spotlight. But that's not who she was, not by a long shot. JoJo came back to rehearsals even bolder, even brighter. And Abby? She was watching her like a hawk. The difference now? JoJo was focused. Her moves were sharper, her formations tighter. She started listening to corrections without pushing back too much. And most importantly, she danced like she had something to prove. Week after week, Abby gave her challenges. Strange costumes, hard choreography, near impossible expectations. But JoJo kept meeting them. Quietly, consistently. And slowly, Abby's walls started to crack. One week, Abby surprised the team by giving JoJo a solo, a lyrical piece titled, "Faith is All I Have." It was completely different from her usual sassy, pop-infused numbers. No glitter, no bows, no sparkles. Just raw emotion and storytelling. JoJo was stunned. Jessalyn was skeptical. The other moms whispered in corners. But JoJo threw herself into the piece. She trained hard. She asked questions and listened to the answers. Even Abby looked impressed during rehearsals. At the competition, JoJo walked on stage with no ponytail, no sequins, just her dance. And when it was over, standing ovation. Abby didn't say much backstage, but the camera caught her mouthing. She earned it. After the lyrical solo, everything shifted. Abby started giving JoJo more chances, more group dances, more difficult parts. She even praised her once in front of the team, a miracle, honestly. JoJo's becoming what I always hoped she'd be, coachable, Abby said in one interview. It wasn't just JoJo's technique. It was her attitude. She'd matured. She was still JoJo, loud, colorful, bold, but she learned how to channel her energy. The moms noticed too. Even Jill, who had once rolled her eyes every time JoJo spoke, admitted. She's holding her own now. And Holly, ever the voice of reason, said, "That's what growth looks like." As JoJo began to rise again in Abby's eyes, things between Abby and Jessalyn thawed. Slightly. They weren't hugging or sipping wine together, but there were fewer screaming matches, fewer passive-aggressive comments, more subtle jabs, less nuclear warfare. Jessalyn started to play the game. She let Abby take the credit, even when JoJo's success clearly came from outside coaching and relentless home training. She understood the bigger picture, getting JoJo through this stage so she could move on to the next one. Abby may not have liked Jessalyn, but she could no longer deny, that kid has something. Then came the week when Abby needed JoJo more than ever. One of the team's lead dancers got injured last minute. They needed a strong, confident, clean performer to step into a solo the night before competition. Everyone expected her to hand it to Maddie or Kalani, But Abby turned to JoJo. "You're the only one who can pull this off with that kind of energy," she said. "Don't let me down." JoJo's jaw dropped. So did everyone else's. This was real trust. And JoJo? She nailed it. The solo was fast, complex, and fiery. She walked off stage grinning from ear to ear. Even Abby stood to applaud. That's the JoJo I want. Not the YouTube star. Not the bow. Just the dancer. As JoJo's dance life reached new highs at ALDC, something else was brewing in the background. Her music career. She was recording songs, working on choreography videos, and building a massive online following. Fans from Dance Moms were now becoming JoJo siwanators, a growing movement that Abby couldn't quite control or understand. Abby wanted JoJo to focus on technique, winning competitions, and building a dancer's resume. But Jessalyn and JoJo had their eyes on something bigger, a full-blown entertainment career. And as JoJo's Instagram and YouTube exploded, Abby started to feel it, the slow slip of power. "She's becoming too commercial," Abby said in one episode. "It's not about the art anymore." But JoJo didn't care. She was building her empire, and she wasn't apologizing for it. It all came to a head when JoJo booked a major opportunity outside of Dance Moms, a live performance that conflicted with a competition Abby had planned for months. Abby was furious. "You're going to ditch this team for a music video," she snapped. JoJo tried to explain. The schedule, the opportunity, the fact that it was a dream come true. Jessalyn stepped in with the reality. "This is bigger than a trophy, Abby." Abby exploded. "Fine. Go. But don't come crawling back when it doesn't work out." Spoiler, JoJo never crawled back. She danced at the event. She went viral. The bow, the outfit, the energy. It was pure JoJo. Fans screamed her name. Kids mimicked her moves. She was no longer just a Dance Moms kid. She was a star. JoJo returned for one final ALDC number, a lyrical piece called "Leaving You Behind." Fitting, right? It was emotional, expressive, and heart-wrenching. Abby choreographed it herself. At the end of the routine, JoJo collapsed to the floor and looked toward the audience. Symbolic. Powerful. Final. Backstage, the girls hugged her. Some cried. Even Abby looked choked up, though she'd never admit it. In her confessional, Abby said, "She was a pain in the butt, but she was memorable. They'll never forget her." JoJo smiled through her tears. "I'll always be grateful, but I'm ready for more." Social media erupted. JoJo's final episode trended globally. Fans posted tributes, edits, and reaction videos. Old clips resurfaced of Abby yelling, "She is finished," now turned into memes mocking how wrong she was. Hashtag bow down to JoJo. Hashtag from bench to booked. Hashtag she ate Abby up. Even JoJo's haters had to admit she did that. And Dance Moms? Ratings spiked. Fans called JoJo's exit one of the most iconic moments in franchise history. She didn't leave in shame. She left in triumph. Years later, when people look back on Dance Moms, JoJo Siwa's journey is one of the most compelling arcs of all. She came in loud and polarizing. She got kicked out, fought her way back, earned respect, and left on her own terms. Abby may have built the ALDC, but JoJo built an empire. Music, TV, tours, merch. A brand so massive it eclipsed the very show that gave her a platform.